welcome to The Local Lens. I'm Jenny Pastasak. Today I'm talking with the director of an organization that was started 58 years ago by Frank Perdue and Richard Henson. And the organization is still alive and thriving today, making big changes for our community. Today I'm talking to Mike Dunn, the executive director of the Greater Salisbury Committee. Thanks so much for coming on the show,
Of course,
Mike.
my pleasure.
I think I want to start off because it's a topic that's been talked about with other guests here and in the community is the housing task force that Greater Salisbury Committee has put together. What is the goal? How are you doing what you're doing? Kind of explain that task force.
The task force was a reaction to exactly what you just talked about. Housing is the number one issue. The Federal Reserve, not GSC, not you, not the Federal Reserve, has identified the housing crisis as the most impactful and most threatening thing to the health of the U.S. economy. So in Wicomico County, in the Salisbury and Wicomico real estate market, we haven't been building houses in the better part of 20 years. And so we put together a task force and we put Bill McCain in charge of it. And nobody around here knows more about housing than Bill McCain. And our conclusions were that we need housing, all kinds of housing, all price points, affordable housing, luxury housing. We need new neighborhoods. There have not, relatively speaking, there have not been new neighborhoods built in the Salisbury-Wicomico real estate market for the better part of 20 years. Wow. And so we put this white paper together, we published it, we presented it at the Wicomico County Council, the Salisbury City Council, the Del Mar City Council, and we put it out there. And then we hit the road and we went to go visit some of the national and significant home builders that are all around us, doing business all around us. And as a result of that, we've got a few of those national companies that are now looking at the Salisbury-Wicomico real estate market to build houses.
So why, I guess my first question is, why for 20 years haven't we built neighborhoods?
We never really recovered from the Great Recession. That's number one. And number two, we were a community that was built primarily, your Nistdales, everything out on Nanticoke Road, all of those neighborhoods, everything off of Colburn Mill, all of those neighborhoods. We had a really thriving private home developer business. We had names like Murph McLaughlin and Tom Ruark and people like that, Robert Messick. They were the builders of our homes. Well, that was 30 and 40 years ago. And Robert Messick is still building homes, but by and large, those local builder developers got older, retired, had built a lot, and suddenly there was a gap. We went from having plenty, and then we had nothing. So we're just trying to close the gap.
And you said of all different, pricing, it's not just affordable housing.
Correct.
Because we need homes, period.
Correct. The challenge in today's world is that any home that gets built, any house, any brand new house is about $200 a square foot, whether it's a mansion or whether it's a 1,500 square foot ranch house. My Y-High math says that 200 times 1,500 is $300,000. So that's the starting point primarily for a new house in today's world. In this market, in many markets, it's a lot higher than that. So affordable housing, one could argue that nothing is affordable housing anymore, but clearly we have many people in our community where $300,000 is out of reach. And so what we simply did was say, housing, we need more housing, from affordable to high-end to new neighborhoods.
And then, we go down that path. Well, when?
Yeah.
I mean, what's the timing? I don't know if you can even say.
The when is now-ish. There's dirt being poured or turned. There are at least 4 housing developments right now that are going up. One off of Snow Hill Road, one off of Beagland Park, one off of Pemberton Drive. So we're beginning to see some of that. And then some of these folks that we're talking to, they're doing their due diligence. And I think it's important to note that right next door to us is Sussex County,
Yes.
who they were building 3,400 homes a year, and we were building about 150 of them.
Wow.
And so they're now getting a little gun shy up there, and some of that housing may slow down a little bit. And here we sit. So we think the opportunity is now, and we're a good market.
Is now, yeah. That's great. That's the beauty of what the Greater Salisbury Committee does. These are big issues that you really dig into.
We try.
Yeah, no, there's been success, and we saw that with. We're just going to jump right into
Sure.
the success story of the Blue Ribbon panel, and this is education we're talking about now. Let's talk about that. We've mentioned it, but I just want to keep talking about it because it worked, and we're on a good path now.
We're on a good path this year, no question. Our GSE 2030 report, the first thing that it identified that was a report we did of identifying the challenges and opportunities in 2030. And one of them was sustainable funding for education, sustainable investing in education.
Yes.
So we put together a Blue Ribbon panel, and you were part of it.
Yes.
And it was GSC, it was the Chamber of Commerce, their education network, and it was the Wicomico County Education Foundation, and some people who wanted to be part of it. And we shared that we ranked pretty much near the bottom in local per pupil spending across the state. And so our friends at the...
Not just now, for a long time.
For a long time. And so it was time for us to invest appropriately in the schools. We credit to the superintendent, Dr. Micah Stauffer, and his staff. Credit to the school board. They adopted their budget, which called for about $5 million more in investment in education this year than last year.
Okay.
That budget was then taken to the county executive. Good on her. She took it in whole, passed it along to the county council. Then good on the county council.
Yes.
They adopted it in full. And so, we from June of last year till September of last year, right? So this summer break,
Right.
Wicomico County had 600 more students enroll in our public schools. That's the size of an elementary school.
Whoa.
So our maintenance of effort, which is the minimum amount necessary by the state, our maintenance of effort was going to go up by about $2 million anyway. We were saying and recommending, look, let's look at education like a business plan. And we laid out a 10-year way to increase investment so that we could get back to pre-recession levels of funding. And so here we are. And credit to all of those elected officials and our school board and our county executive,
And the
our
community,
county council, the community. Look, when the teacher of the year, Debbie Reynolds, went up
Yes.
to the podium at one of the public hearings.
I'm so sorry I missed it. Yeah.
She graduated from Bennett. And when she said that in 2010, when she graduated from Bennett, that the county was investing more in per pupil spending in 2010 than now when she's the teacher of the year, that's the kind of message that resonates. So good for us, good for the community, good for our elected officials, good for all of those who came out and spoke at those public hearings and advocated for this. And, we had a tagline it was hashtag, you were part of that, do better Wicomico.
Yeah.
And I think that resonated with a lot of people. And Dr. Stauffer gets tremendous credit for leading this effort.
Absolutely. And I think on social media, I went on and said, thank you for doing better Wicomico, because it worked.
Yeah, it did.
And it's all about the investment in our future.
Correct. Our kids.
I mean, they're the ones that are going to be leading the way.
Yep.
So that's fantastic.
Yeah, it was good.
I'm going to kind of jump into, because we're talking about education, if my child is not ready for school and I work, I need childcare. I remember back in the day with two kids, and this was 20 plus years ago.
Sure.
The cost of childcare is high for a reason, but how can people, afford to work when they're not making enough? Like it's just, a cycle. So you have a childcare
We do.
team.
That was also identified in our GSE 2030, that childcare. It's probably the number one issue that's talked about at the dinner table with, parents, because it's costly. The availability of it is somewhat limited. And so we said that this is impacting our workforce. And so Dr. Catherine Jones is helping to lead this effort. And, much like we did with the Housing Task Force, we get the right people around the table. So when you create a child care task force, who do you think should be sitting around the table?
Child care providers?
Child care providers, parents who are impacted, employers that it's impacting them. So, that's who's the child care task force. And they've just gotten started. There are 3 meetings in. They have another meeting tomorrow afternoon. And, it's a good effort. We will see where it leads and what conclusions and recommendations. But this is this is kind of what GSC does. We take a look at the community and what are the challenges, the opportunities, the problems, and then we try to set our eyes on them, and sometimes we come up with some solutions. Sometimes we raise awareness, but it's just, we've been at this since 1967, and it's what we try to do is just non-political, just a look at what the community looks like and how can it get better.
I understand that the Greater Salisbury Committee has a Healthy Minds for Sure group together too. But what is Healthy Minds? What does that really mean, Mike?
So this started when our friends at the Henson Foundation, their trustees, were starting to see, they get grant applications all the time. And they were starting to see more and more of those grant applications have some sort of aspect on the mental health and behavioral health front.
Yeah.
So they literally hit timeout, and they said to Stacy McMichael, the executive director, hey, why don't you go down to talk to GSE, we're in the same building, and let them know this. And so what we did, we called Dr. Sam Scott, who is perhaps our preeminent healthcare, child care expert and mental health expert. And we met with her, and we put together this group called Healthy Minds for Sure. HealthyMindsForSure.org. You can go look it up.
Okay.
It's got Tidal Health, it's got Chesapeake Healthcare, it's got Warwick Community College, it's got Salisbury University, it's got the Wycomico Health Department.
Okay.
It's got some philanthropic partners. And so the short version of what we tried to do was, we've been up for about 2 years. What 3 to 5 things could we bring about that could improve the mental and behavioral health outcomes here on the Lower Shore? So we've done things like, again, we get on the road and we have hosted Kennedy Krieger. We've had conversations with Shepherd Pratt. We've had conversations with the Benedictine School. Of course, a partner is also, again, the school system. So we're trying to entice one of these statewide partners to come and set up shop here because a lot of the challenges within the classrooms, they're things that people of my age and even of your age, there are students in the classroom now that the school system has to take care of everybody who shows up at their door.
Right.
And they're not fully equipped to deal with everyone. So we're trying to recruit some of those statewide firms to come down here. They're showing interest. One of the other things that we're doing, of course, there are tons of mental health therapists and social workers. In order for them to get their continuing education credits, they often have to get on the road, go to Philadelphia or Baltimore or Washington, spend a day, attend a CE classroom or something, and then drive back. We now bring the CE credits here. We'll get a room, we'll rent a room at Salisbury University. There will be 100 mental health, behavioral health, social work people there, and we'll put on continuing ed opportunities for them here, free. So it's things like that that Healthy Minds for sure is attempting to work on.
Yeah, that's when we talk about Greater Salisbury Committee, we talk about, big picture solutions. We're not going to throw a community fair and see who shows up and talk
Other
to them.
people do that.
Yeah,
Yes,
yeah.
correct. Yeah.
But these are, what foundations can we set here in our community that will continue on? It's about the longevity.
Yeah, and it's also about, collaboration. And Greater Salisbury Committee does not operate in any way, shape, or form in a vacuum. Virtually everything we do, we have community partners, whether that's the Chamber of Commerce, the United Way, the Community Foundation, Salisbury University, Warwick. We very rarely operate in a silo. We're known as being a group that collaborates well. I say all the time that we can get the right people in the right room to talk about the right things, and whatever those things are. One of the fun things we did, gosh, everything we do isn't the most serious thing in the world.
Right, okay.
When Jay Copeland, right, when he did American Idol.
That's right, that's right.
So his uncle Mandel is a GSC member, and Mandel had given me the early quiet heads up that, hey, Jay got this platinum ticket or whatever. And I said, look, Mandel, as this plays out, if Jay does well, we've all watched American Idol enough to know that the community often has to do like a concert.
Sure.
Once his journey ends, however it ends, you come see us. Jay got voted off American Idol on a Sunday night. He finished 7th. Mandel was on the phone with me on Monday. Thursday at about 1 o'clock, Jay Copeland, his mother, and his 2 uncles come walking down the hallway of the Greater Salisbury Committee, and in our conference room, we had the school system, the city of Salisbury, Wicomico County, Tidal Health, Salisbury University. We had put the right people in the room. 22 days later, we had raised the community collaborating. We had raised $38,000, and we put on a free concert for 5,000 people to highlight Jay Copeland. That's fun. So
in 22 days.
22 days.
That's impressive.
Yeah, it was impressive. That's the community. Yeah. So we're good at that and rallying and collaborating.
There's reasons. There's reasons to do this.
Of course.
Who else would they go to?
Well, I don't know. I don't know that, but we're good at just, again, when they walked in that room and saw everybody there, like, okay,
this is really going to happen.
Good.
Yeah. That's exciting. I'm going to jump from fun to water sewer, but this is so important. So important. People are like, okay, water sewer, why? Why do we care? And why is this important? And let's help people understand that.
Back to the housing challenges. All of the houses that we talked about, all of the new neighborhoods that were built out on that Nanticoke Road corridor, et cetera, that were built in the 80s and 90s. Virtually every one of them was built with a septic system. And septic systems are no longer in favor in the state of Maryland. The regulations relating to the health of the Chesapeake Bay, replacing a septic system is a challenging thing. Getting a septic inspection when you sell your house, you hold your breath to hope that your septic system passes. So the bottom line, we put a water and sewer task force together. Again, engineers, not people like me. We bring the right people in the room. Amanda Pollock from the Center for Watershed Protection is kind of quarterbacking the efforts for Wicomico County. Rob Duma, an engineer in town, is the chair of that task force. And it's all about pipes. We need pipes in Wicomico County. We have 18,000 septic systems in Wicomico County. 10,000 of them are at risk. So when you go to sell your house, if you have a septic system and I'm buying your house, both of us are holding our breath when the septic inspector comes. And if it fails, it's between you and me to determine, okay, well, how are we going to replace this? So our housing growth that's coming, they will all be connected to municipal water and sewer lines. That's where and how growth occurs.
Okay.
Growth has occurred in Sussex County because they have pipes. We don't have pipes. So the way in which we traditionally built our neighborhoods in this real estate market, just not allowed to do that anymore. Simple as that. So we need pipes.
We need pipes. But
Yep.
what does that mean? That means we need to, there's...
It means hundreds of millions of dollars, many challenges. The Wicomico County Council, the county executive, to their credit, they're spending $750,000 on 3 study areas, one out toward Parsonsburg, Pittsville, one out toward Hebron, Mardella, Sharptown,
Okay.
and one here within the city of Salisbury where sometimes you're riding down the same street, you see a green street sign, that's city limits, you have pipes. 1 block over, there's a white street sign. That's a county street sign, that's a septic system. We call them donut holes. So the 3rd study area is looking at ways to close those donut holes so that
Okay.
everybody has municipal pipes. That's how growth can occur.
And that's really the only way to go.
This is an economic development situation. It could be an environmental health challenge.
Sure.
These failing septic systems. If you have a septic system that doesn't work and you're trying to sell your house may be worth nothing. So we're just trying to change the paradigm.
Yeah, if you think about it, I was like, well, if it fails, then what do we do?
Correct.
Yeah.
And that is happening with a lot of homeowners in Wicomico County. So it's serious stuff.
It is.
Yeah.
It is. Someone needs to take the lead on that.
So we're trying.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, I'm gonna jump, and that's the thing. We as a community appreciate all of these initiatives because they're so important and critical to, the future of this community. So
Thank you.
We do. And I say future of our community because the next one's about leadership.
Yeah.
Who are those next
Yeah.
leaders in our future waiting to just rise to the top?
Yeah, GSC every 2 years, we hold something called TCL. It stands for Transformational Community Leadership. Many of the people watching are familiar with Shore Leadership and Leadership Maryland. This is a mini version, as you know, because you are our facilitator of it. We have a cohort of about 28 people, and the very last, we just met last week. Our subject matter for the month was community pride and engagement.
Okay.
So we learned a lot from Wicomico Rec and Parks and Tourism. We went to the new pickleball courts. We talked about the economic impact. We then took the new tour of the new $28 million improvement at Shorebird Stadium.
I was so impressed.
Oh, yeah.
That
Clubhouse facilities and
That
batting
was
cages.
really cool.
Yeah. And then we ended up at Seagull Stadium where we got a tour of it. And at the end of each TCL, we have a leadership panel. Well, our one-person leadership panel this past month was Coach Jim Berkman and the coach of the men's lacrosse team at Salisbury University. He's the winningest lacrosse coach of all time. He's won 13 national championships. You were there. We go into the locker room. We sit on the stools where the players sit. And fair to say the man knows a little bit about leadership and inspiring people.
And even just used lacrosse or even worldly things as examples with different individuals in the group. And I think everyone in the room was just, their eyes were, glazed over.
Your job, of course, after, is to kind of ask questions. And when you first attempted to ask questions, you and I were talking later. I said, Jenny, I believe they were a little bit intimidated and were a little afraid to, can I actually ask you a question?
Yeah, they weren't sure.
Yeah.
And I think that it was just really interesting to hear his story and how he leads.
Yeah.
But also, let's apply it to, it's not just lacrosse.
We were not talking about lacrosse.
No.
So what we do with TCL, we take this next-gen group of people who are committed to their community. We try to teach them about the community. Next month, it's about infrastructure. So we're likely to do a tour of the landfill. We're likely to go to the Salisbury water plant, potentially the wastewater treatment plant. We're trying to give them the knowledge of the things that happen within our community so that they then at least know as much about their community as they continue to get engaged. So we do TCL every other year, so it's a lot of fun.
And I think one of the greatest parts about it is as they're doing this, they're getting to know each other.
Yeah.
And they network, and it at the end, 2 years ago, friendships were formed,
Yeah.
partnerships were made. It just kind of starts right there.
Future collaborations are
Yeah.
happening. Yeah, so it's good. We really enjoy it. So, as you know, it's an exhausting day when we do TCL.
It is.
We do it the third Thursday of every month from April through October, and we get at it pretty hard in that 4 hours.
I do want to make a point that one of our trips will be to we should
Yeah.
probably, because it's not just here.
Correct. We're going down to Nassau Wallops, and we will
Yes.
get that full tour. We will be on the launch pad. We'll be in mission control. And look, what this says, these are our community partners. They want to share. They want the people within this region to know about landfills and rocket launches and shorebirds improvements, because it's important.
And workforce development and job opportunities.
Everything.
The one piece that stuck out to me at NASA 2 years ago was the individual who was talking about, you think it's just a whole bunch of scientists and engineers.
Yeah.
No,
It's a whole ecosystem.
there's
down there.
so many
Correct.
opportunities when it comes to.
There's 1,900
workforce.
jobs every day at Nassau Wallops on the base, and fully half of that workforce lives in either Worcester, Wycomico, or Somerset County. So, and they're not all rocket science. To your point. They're
No.
plumbers, they're electricians, they're
Yeah.
construction people. It's IT, business, finance, it's everything.
Well, I just want to thank you
course.
for your time and for sharing the different task force initiatives that the Greater Salisbury Committee is tackling for our community. We are in debt to. I feel like the things that are being done through Greater Salisbury Committee. Who else would do these things?
I don't know, but I'm glad that we do them. We have about 100 members who support what we do. And again, two guys named Frank Perdue and Richard Henson created the Greater Salisbury Committee back in 1967 with the singular thought, it's okay to be successful,
Okay.
but you got to give back to the community. And so that's what our members are all about. And I have the privilege of working for 100 members of the Greater Salisbury Committee, all of whom kind of understand that this is how a community has to work and grow and build.
Thank you, Mike.
Thank you, Jenny.
Mike Dunn, the Executive Director of the Greater Salisbury Committee. He said it several times, putting the right people around the table at the right time for the betterment of our community. Thanks for joining The Local Lens. I'm Jenny Pastusak. See you next time.